Hey Diego, how's it going?
I'm great, thank you, Steve. How can I help you, sir?
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna ask you 8 questions, and out of those 8 questions, I want to see what kind of response you have for them.
Sure thing.
So, based on your entrepreneurship, and I want to know more about what you do. All right.
Okay.
So, first question: what is your current job title, position, and how long have you been in this role?
I am currently the president of the company, and I have been involved since the conception of the business, which was 5 years ago.
Awesome, awesome. That's really good. Okay, so second question: how did you land this position?
Well, it's been a very long time coming, actually. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I'm 35 years old now, but I started my career as an entrepreneur when I was 18 years old. So that's 17 years ago. I've been doing what I do now. And so I've been starting companies for 17 years. And the first companies that I started were tech related, internet related businesses. And I could say that I probably started about 6 or 7 companies, and most of them have failed. I think that what I have learned as my throughout my career of entrepreneurship is that one of the hardest things that you can do is start a company. There is very, very high chance of failure. Unfortunately, that's the case. But so it takes a long time to perfect um, the kind of the ingredients for you to build a company. And so to answer your question, how did I get here? Well, it wasn't that just 5 years ago I started this company and here I am. I really look at it more like 17. This has been 17 years in the making. A lot of lessons, a lot of failures, some successes, and you just start improving that recipe, so to speak, and you little by little improve upon the mistakes that you have made. And every time you try to be more and more efficient, and then until you either have luck or have enough experience to start a company that takes off or that is successful. And yeah, I'm here. I got here because I have fallen a lot. I have what they call a lot of scar tissue, so a lot of experience in making a lot of mistakes, and that I think is kind of the conclusion of all these years of starting companies is you make a lot of mistakes, and so the key is little by little making less and less mistakes, learning from your previous experiences and improving on what you failed on before. And so, the sweet success and the conclusion of all these years of doing what I do, you realize that to to be able to get to a place where you finally have a business that is successful, is profitable, that is important in the field, and that employs people and changes lives, is from the hard work of an entrepreneur and also the people that work with the company that bring their experience. But it's kind of the conclusion of all that really hard work and that very difficult learning lessons that you take, which at the end, it's more of a sweeter success when you have a lot of work and a lot of time and blood, sweat, and tears invested in the company. So, in conclusion, I'm here because um, I've worked very hard to do what I do, and maybe a little bit of luck also. I'm not sure, but it's been kind of an effort of many many years and many many people to finally be able to run a business that is fairly successful.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. Awesome. Okay, so what do you enjoy most about your job?
I think it's the freedom. That's for me is the most important thing. To own your own business gives you a lot of liberty. Of course, it's a lot of work, but what I enjoy about being an entrepreneur is that ultimately the decisions are made by me, good or bad. It's irrelevant, but the key is that I'm free to direct the business in the way in the way that I choose to do so. Um, so yeah, I think that for me, the most exciting thing, what I most love about my business is kind of having control to make decisions and not being necessarily guided or told what to do, but instead of having the liberty to decide.
That's amazing. That's really amazing, man. Awesome.
Hmm.
Okay, so do you consider your work in a team or independent environment? More like.
Definitely in a team. That's a very clear question for me that I could have never done what I did until now by myself. There's no way that I can operate in a silo in a vacuum environment where the only influence that is being applied on the business is myself. That would never exist. That would never work. It's always been the contrary, because there's no way in this world that I can know and do everything, and I don't intend to, and I don't want to. It's extremely important to be able to surround yourself by people that are strong in areas that where I am weak, because no one person can be strong in every single area. So it's absolutely it's been clear to me for this career as an entrepreneur that the people that I surround myself with or that engage in my business are what make this company very successful because there's no way that I could possibly do this on my own. So, that's one of the very key factors in building this business and in my prior businesses as well is kind of surrounding myself or employing people or engaging people that can make me very that can make this business very smart. And in no way would I think that I would want to do this by myself. Now, there's another factor that's important to think about is working with a business partner or a co-founder. And that's kind of a different ballpark. Over the years, I have always started businesses with partners, and for the same reason, because I felt that I didn't have the knowledge or the experience enough to do what I needed to do by myself as a leader or as a manager, as an owner of the business. I had to partner myself with someone who had experience in maybe in business or in finance or whatever it was that we needed for that business. And that worked at the time, and that was very important. But it's extremely challenging to work with business partners. Because especially when times are difficult, uh, it's very easy to um, it's very easy to have relationship problems with people that are working so closely with you. It's a very delicate balance to have business partners. So this business is different that I've started on my own, and this is the first one that I actually built without any partners, just myself. And the experience is completely different. But I've been able to do it because I have much more experience. I wouldn't have been able to do this by myself several years back. And ultimately, if I look back, the conclusion, despite what is very common, you read in business books. For me, my experience is that if you can, starting a business by yourself is is a is a good strategy, and it doesn't always apply. It might not always be the correct way to start a business. As I said prior to this, I didn't do it on my own, and that was the best decision at the time. But kind of looking back, I think that this business has been easier for me because I don't have any business partners. And the advantage of that is that, well, first of all, you don't have to take joint decisions to get things done. You kind of can move much more quickly. Um, and then it's kind of the business flow is a little bit easier. So, but again, it's not necessarily the best way to start. I think starting with partners is always a good idea. But ultimately, if you can get in a position where you have full control of the business and make the decisions on your own, if you have the experience to do so, for me, it's the best way to go about a business.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. It's really good. It's really awesome. Okay. So, you answered the question that was after. So, how does this style impact your work? So, you basically got that.
Sure.
So, what do you like least about your job?
Wow, that's hard to say. It's hard to say because there's never a there's never a day that I feel like I don't like what I do. I love what I do. I love every minute of it. Um, if I had to say anything, well, it is very stressful to be an entrepreneur. You ultimately are responsible for yourself and for your future and for your day to day. That's very challenging. I think being an entrepreneur is very, very difficult and very, very challenging. I have, a lot of friends who chose the traditional career and the traditional path of working for larger corporations and more traditional style livelihoods. And I can see the appeal of that. You don't have to worry about your paycheck at the end of the week, at the end of the month. You get your check and you go home, and that's the end of that. Whereas as an entrepreneur, you kind of carry the responsibilities of your business every day, day and night, even on the weekends, you're kind of thinking of the business. So you're very much tied to that. And then there's the financial burden, which is if you don't make it, then you don't have a paycheck, and that's very challenging. That's very, very difficult to deal with, and specifically because most of the time, as an entrepreneur, at least in my experience, for many, many years, that's going to be the case. That was the case for me, where for at least a decade, I took very little money, if not any at all, and I had to have a side job to be able to sustain myself in the business. So there isn't anything that I don't dislike of my life as an entrepreneur or of my business, even when it was not doing so well. Even those times were good as well, but it is challenging and it's not an easy task. And sometimes you're going to lose a lot of sleep, but I would not say that I would never do that again, or would I um, regret going through this, because ultimately it was a lot of fun. So I think in conclusion, I don't. There's nothing in my business that I don't enjoy.
It's really interesting, man, to hear what you like and what you don't like.
Mhm.
Awesome. Okay. So,
Sure.
what was your major in college? What did you major in
I
college?
studied marketing, and it's an interesting. It's interesting for me because I always thought that I wanted to study business because I knew from very, very early on that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And so, but just from circumstances of my life, I ended up studying marketing, which I came to discover years later that was actually one of the best things that I could have done, because in my perspective, the most important factor of any business is marketing. More important than finance, more important than business strategy, um, more important than product. It's really about the marketing. I think that's what makes or breaks a business. It's kind of like the key level of a business. The most important factor in a business is the marketing. So Having a stronger marketing background for me was very important because I had more experience in that, and then that helped me understand just how valuable marketing is for the business. And so I studied marketing, but then also I had a very strong internet background, which became very important as a channel for marketing because today in this year and this decade that we live in now, we cannot deny that the internet is has become the most important tool for marketing for any business, and that's how we've built this business is strictly through online marketing. So marketing has been a very important factor for my career as an entrepreneur, and I would encourage anyone that's studying business to really focus a lot of their energy on marketing and understanding how to get your product out because ultimately that I think is the most difficult, the most challenging thing to do with any business.
Oh, well, yeah, the marketing is really important.
Hmm.
All right, so the next and last question is, I mean, it says please describe your career path to this current job, but I mean, it's not really. Okay, so how did you take cables and sensors to the point where it is now? I guess like a
Um,
brief overview, not the whole entire thing. Something like
sure.
you're saying, basically, what forced you to take this career path, and how did you get it to that point?
So as I described earlier, I've always been an entrepreneur. In these 17 years as an entrepreneur, I've worked for a company for 6 months, and it was a half-time job. It was just during college, and which was a great experience. But I've really never worked for companies. It's a good thing and a bad thing. Um, so most of my energy and most of my time have been focused towards building companies. And so how did I get here? Well, through a lot of trial and error. I started a lot of companies in different fields. I dabbled in a lot of different industries and different markets. And to get to cables and sensors, I um, had to learn a lot of kind of key aspects of how I wanted to build this business. In fact, I didn't I didn't really stumble across cables and sensors. It didn't happen out of luck. It was very strategically planned. I had been looking for many years for a business that had some characteristics that I had learned over the years that were very important. Like, for example, I wanted to be in an industry where the customer had a lot of money. So in prior companies I had started, my customer was the end user, the consumer, and I learned that that's a difficult industry to be in and a difficult consumer because the average consumer doesn't have a lot of let's say money to spend, whereas other industries like healthcare, where we are right now, or you might say industries like oil and gas, those are very healthy industries. Um, what else could I think that has a lot of like government, for example? Those are industries where there's a lot of money, right? And so um, one of my previous mentors would tell me this. She would give me this example. She said, "Why do robbers rob banks? Well, that's where the money is." And so that's kind of the mantra behind one of the things that I was looking for in building businesses, looking for an industry where there's money, right? Because making money is difficult to begin with to get started. So if you have a customer that has a lot of cash flow, that just makes it a little bit easier. Yeah. So if you're selling to the government where there's a lot of money, that makes it a little bit easier. If you're selling into the healthcare field where there's a lot of money, that makes it a little bit easier. If you're selling to people on the street that don't necessarily have a lot of income, that makes it even a little bit harder. So I was looking for an industry where there was a lot of capital, and healthcare is one of the ones that obviously it had always been thinking about. The other thing that I was looking for was a product that had high ticket value. So I didn't want to be involved in businesses like I had previously, where you were charging, a dollar or two to your customers for your product. I wanted these transactions to be higher valued. So that was another feature that I was looking for in a business. And I also wanted to build a business in a very, very niche field. I wanted to get extremely granular and very specific, instead of kind of having an umbrella business where I wanted to go after everything and everyone in a certain field. I wanted to be very, very specific. I wanted to find a product that was extremely exclusive and extremely niche focused. And the reason for that is because I think being able to be very specialized, it gives you a lot of advantages. If you're able to find a niche where you can be the best at what you do, that can give you a very strong position, and that's what we've done. So all of these factors, industries where there's a lot of funds, being the best in one specific field, therefore being very niche focused. Um, High ticket items were important factors. So all of these things I've been kind of taking a mental note of over the years. I learned these things. And then one day I was working at a company that used to sell uh, hospital equipment, and I realized that they had a problem. And so one of the things that you want to do when you start a business is you want to solve a problem, and you want to solve a problem that is a big problem, and then a problem that is a big problem in a big industry. And so that's what I was able to identify in this company, was that they had this problem, and they had trouble sourcing these parts. And so that's when I saw this opportunity. It kind of checked all the boxes for me. And so I built this business really strategically, kind of thinking, okay, it meets all these requirements that I'm looking for in a business. And at that point, it kind of all came together. And then there's a little bit of luck, timing, or whatever it is that happened, and it kind of all took off. And um, so that's how I think this all happened. Hopefully short in a short story, but
No, that's good.
that would be kind of the conclusion of how I got here.
Wow, that's impressive, man. Taking me from point A to point C, man. That's great.
That's
Awesome.
right.
Hey, Diego, that's been great, man. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for your time, man. And
Anytime.
uh, keep growing, man. Keep growing. That's all I can tell you. Keep growing, and let's see how far cables and sensors will be in about
We
10
will,
years from now.
for sure, Steve.
Awesome,
Thanks so
man.
much.
Thank you.
All right.